Time for our Week 7 Snake Draft, live here on air on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Periscope pages, breaking down the Week 7 NFL DFS main slate, going through a Snake Draft to see who comes out on top for Week number 7. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, joined here as always by JJ Zacharyson and Brandon Gadula. JJ is the editor-in-chief of numberFire and FanDuel. JJ, we've had a lot of weird injury news coming down the pipe throughout the day today. So how you doing?
I'm good. I finally got a win in a snake draft, so I don't feel as crappy as I've felt doing the show over the last 6 weeks. But yeah, lots of injury news, so that's going to change up some stuff for our draft today for sure. I'm excited to see kind of what comes about, because I think there's some interesting games too that should be pretty high scoring.
Yeah, I think there are 3 legit shootouts on this slate, 3 that I feel like don't have a lot of paths to failure, and I feel pretty solid about them, hoping I can get exposure to those games in the snake draft for today. Brandon Gadula is the managing editor for numberFire. Brandon, we talked about this slate yesterday on the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast, and 1 or 2 things have changed since then. There's now no Joe Mixon. We are more definitive that Michael Thomas won't play. A lot of things pretty dicey. So how you doing?
Yeah, I'm scrambling. Usually I feel pretty good by this point in the week, but kind of feels like all of the research is, not all of it, but a lot of the research is out the window. Now, if Giovanni Bernard is a value, that changes pretty much everything, though.
Yeah, it really does, because we were looking for, at least I thought we were looking for a third legit running back to lock in for like a single entry lineup, but I think Gio does give us that between Kamara and Kareem Hunt, so that's definitely encouraging, and it gives us a value play on a slate where we need value to jam in all the high salaried studs available. We're going to get to the snake draft here in just a little bit, but first, as you can see above me, there is a timer. That timer is counting down to when we are going to give away a free ticket into the Week 7 FanDuel Sunday Million. We'll be giving that, ending the giveaway at 3:45 p.m. Eastern. So what you have to do is go to the YouTube post for this live stream. If you're watching on YouTube right now, just scroll down to the description, and right there is a link to enter. You enter your email, and we'll have the drawing later today. So you have 12 minutes, 38 seconds left until that giveaway. So make sure you go to the description over on YouTube, get your entry in, and get that email submitted for a free ticket into the FanDuel Sunday Million. $1 million going to first place for that. Actually, we can check out the payout structure right here, because why not? $1 million going to first place for the FanDuel Sunday Million. So make sure you get your entry in right now by going to the description over on YouTube and checking things out. I think the other big dilemma we had with regards to this slate is how we handle some of the injuries. And JJ, I want to start with you, because this Aaron Jones situation is tough, because when we're ranking out the running backs, I would put Aaron Jones, if we're talking just overall, I'd put him in the top 3 for this week. The problem is now we don't know his situation. He says he thinks he can go on Sunday, but there's a lot up in the air. So is Aaron Jones in consideration for you for this snake draft, or is there too much uncertainty here on Friday afternoon to actually pull that trigger?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of uncertainty. I think that if we were in a larger scale game or tournament, what have you, and you knew that his percent roster was going to be lowered, then it's a lot easier to sort of swallow that and say, you know what, if he doesn't play, take the 0. I probably don't cash in. But if he does, then obviously you're at some sort of an advantage, because he has a great matchup, high scoring game in that contest. His usage has obviously been good. But I think that, in a situation that we're in right now, it's not as advantageous. I do think that you can make the argument maybe at some point in this draft someone could take him. But I personally had him, injury aside, he would have been my RB2. So I had him ahead of Kareem Hunt. I probably would have picked him ahead of Kareem Hunt. But I think now the RB2 spot's pretty obvious to me.
Brandon, the big discussion we were having before the show is where we put Giovanni Bernard, because Joe Mixon has been ruled out. Gio should most likely be in sort of like a borderline bell cow type role for the Bengals. 8 carries, 3 targets last week on 48% of the snaps when Mixon was in and out of the lineup. So where are you viewing Giovanni Bernard for this week? First for the snake draft, but then in the context of the DFS slate where he has $4,800 on FanDuel.
For a snake draft, a 3-person snake draft, I don't know if I'm going to get there. We were talking before the show, after the RB6, it really drops off, and I think you can consider Gio relative to everybody else. But honestly, for a snake draft, I might just go with a wide receiver in the flex this week. But for FanDuel in the salary cap format, I mean, we were looking for value running backs. We don't usually, at least Jim and I, we don't usually chase value at running back, but it's a very different situation whenever we're getting someone who should play about 65% of the snaps on like the low end at a salary of 4,800. So Gio for a salary cap format, you have to love it. But for a 3-person snake draft, probably just a flex at best.
Yeah, and I think that with Gio, the good thing is we can say with a good amount of certainty he'll be getting the passing down work, and that's so valuable. I know that people downplay receiving work on FanDuel because it's a half PPR site, but those yards still count. And the receptions still get you half a point. So that receiving edge still does matter a lot. So that's why I think that for a salary cap format, Gio Bernard makes a lot of sense. All right, should we get this puppy underway? JJ, I think you are the final one to enter here.
Yeah, the other thing I should add that if you're in a points per mustache league, Gio Bernard is in a very good spot.
I think that's the other plus of Gio is that you get to stare at that headshot every time you plug him in. He just pops up there, and you get to feel pretty good about things when that happens.
I am starting it up right now. Brandon got 1, I got 2, Jim got 3. So Jim is going to be the one who has to make the big decision. But Brandon locking in the best play on the slate, especially whenever you don't have to consider.
Are you going David Njoku or Harrison Bryant with the first pick, Brandon?
Yeah. I mean, you made that joke before, but we all know who the 101 is.
I can recycle jokes if we're not on air.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, we know it's Kamara this week, the 101.
Or is it Justin Jackson or Austin Carr? That's the actual question here.
I'm a big Harrison Bryant fan for what it's worth, but
same.
Okay.
Okay,
so we'll see how things go. Brandon is the first pick. JJ picking second. I am picking third. JJ trying to repeat as winner. Brandon won the 2 before that. I need to get off the schneid. A rough 3 weeks here.
Yeah, Jim's winless the past 3 weeks.
Jim hasn't won since the Obama administration.
It's been rough, man. It's been rough.
That's the guy who got his first win in week 6.
All right, so Brandon's up first. A lot of intrigue here, Brandon. Easy choice, right?
Yeah, I was really hoping for the 101 for Kamara. I think that Kareem Hunt is very much in play for the number 2. I think it gets a little shakier after that, but that's only because Derrick Henry and I have a little bit of a contention after last week.
And I'm just gonna just embrace it and just go Derrick Henry with the third pick. I'll take him there. The dilemma would be Chris Carson versus Mike Davis. I want the volume, so I'm going to go with Mike Davis, but I think I could have justifiably gone with Chris Carson there. But I love the every down role that Mike Davis has. So JJ, you went Kareem Hunt. Any trepidation with you there, or was it a pretty easy choice for you?
Pretty easy choice for me. Now I'm between Zeke and Carson, but I have Carson ahead of him, so I'm going to go that direction. I just like that game environment more. You can stack it easily too, and it leaves Brandon going with Kamara and now having a tougher choice.
Yeah. I was hoping you'd go like Devontae.
You could just double up on wide receivers here.
I could, but I don't want a second running back that is as far down as anybody outside of Zeke. So I'm gonna go with Zeke. I don't like it. I don't think he's very much in play at 9,500 for a salary cap, but I mean, in a snake draft, it's a very, very different game. So I'm going to go Zeke, and I'm just going to go with Devontae and not really overthink that one.
You got the running back one and the wide receiver one for the slate.
Yeah, I feel that way. I don't know how Henry's or Ezekiel Elliott's gonna fare with the offensive line being what it is. Andy Dalton clearly not looking on par with Dak Prescott, but I'm good with the volume, and now I don't have to get another running back if I don't want to.
I think that's the right way to play things. So I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley here. I like him a little bit more than Julio. I think it's pretty close, so I could just go Julio with my second one. But I'm going to go DK Metcalf. I think that for a salary cap format, Metcalf is the best or second best receiver on the slate relative to T. Higgins. But I'll take Ridley and Metcalf for sure. JJ, you want DeAndre Hopkins, who will get roughly 17 targets in that game against Seattle. Anyone else you consider with that pick?
No, and I liked it a lot because I could sort of game stack it with Chris Carson. Then I took Kenny Galladay just now. I just love his touchdown upside in that game. It should be high scoring. Atlanta's just been putrid in the secondary. We saw them beat up last week against both Thielen and Justin Jefferson. So Babytron, I think, is in a good spot.
Okay, so you've got Hopkins and Galladay. Brandon goes with Julio. So Brandon's got Julio. You should game stack with TJ Hawkinson here or DeAndre Swift. Do it.
I feel like you try to goad me into more of that than you do with JJ.
I have an active desire for you to lose because we always compete in our PGA head-to-heads, and I always lose, so I feel like I need to root against you more.
Yeah, I could see
also,
that.
JJ is my boss, and you can't fire me.
Yeah, definitely on top of my priority list. I'm gonna throw a slight curveball. I talked about him before things started up here. No John Brown.
Okay.
I'm going Stephon Diggs as my third wide. I mean, look, this is the slate. We talked about it entering this. This is the slate where we're likely not going to go super running back heavy just because there's a pretty clear drop off. So Diggs with Galladay and Hopkins, I'm feeling good about. Should have a high floor too.
I respect that. I went with Russ because I want the stack with DK Metcalf, but I also just think he's the best quarterback on the slate straight up. And then I will go with Terry McLaurin, who is not someone I was really high on from a salary cap perspective, but I think in this format actually grades out really well because I think his floor is good. My concern with him from a salary cap perspective is the ceiling. I don't have to care as much about the ceiling in a 3-person snake draft, so I actually like McLaurin there. So that's where I'll wind up with things. JJ, you get the stack with DeAndre Hopkins, with Kyler Murray, and Brandon rounds things out with Deshaun Watson. Okay, so the quarterback's taken Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, and Kyler Murray. We didn't take a 7th running back, correct?
I don't think so, no.
Okay,
no, we all have receivers.
All right, so we all have 3 wide receivers as opposed to another running back. And I think I feel pretty good about my team personally. We got the stack with Russ and Metcalf. I'm going to get a lot of volume at least out of the running backs with Derrick Henry and Mike Davis. And then the receivers being Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, and Terry McLaurin. Again, I think the volume should be there for sure. JJ, you got Deshaun, or let's go with Brandon actually because he's at the top of my screen here. Brandon, you have Deshaun Watson. You kind of stacked him with Devontae Adams, I guess, within that game. What were the big decision points for you here?
So at the 101, there was no decision with Kamara. A big decision for me really came with the second pick for me with Ezekiel Elliott. I don't love the situation. I really won't have a whole lot of exposure to him, on the regular slate, but figure just take the volume here with Zeke. And then honestly, there weren't a whole lot of more difficult decisions throughout. Devontae was a no-brainer then at number 3. And I just kind of went with Julio and Lockett because they were at the top of my list. And I think that they're much better plays than, any of the 7, whoever the RB7 would kind of be. Yeah. I was hoping for Kyler, but, I'm fine with Deshaun as well.
So it was Kyler over Deshaun, right?
Yeah, but it was kind of an easy draft for me, honestly. And I thought it was going to be a lot harder.
All right, what about you, JJ? You did get Kyler Murray, and you did stack him with DeAndre Hopkins. You have the game stack there with Chris Carson as well. What were the big decision points for you within that draft?
I just wanted that Sunday night hammer, man. I just wanted to come through with the Sunday night hammer. No, look, I would agree with Brandon. I feel like that this draft sort of fell into place for each of us in a way. I had to get Kareem Hunt. I had him as my RB2, so I went that route. I also think that the Cleveland-Cincinnati game could be higher scoring than others think. You have
we're on the same page. Yeah. You are in good company from that perspective.
A Cincinnati defensive line that hasn't generated any pressure. That's another reason why I like Deshaun Watson a lot this week. But I wanted to stack Hopkins with Murray. But Green Bay is not generating any pressure either, and that's obviously always a thing that you have to look for with Deshaun Watson. But with Cincinnati not really getting much of a pass rush and clean pockets, Baker Mayfield hasn't been terrible this year. So I think that they could generate. He's like
ringing endorsement.
Yeah, well, he's more of like an average quarterback in a clean pocket, whereas he's not good at all when you put everything together. Statistically, I'm sorry, Jim. So I like Kareem Hunt, and then I went with Chris Carson over Zeke just because, like I said, I like the game environment there more, and I'm glad that I did it because then I was able to get Hopkins because I figured that, to me, Adams is the number one wide receiver on the slate. I figured Brandon would go in that direction, and that would leave me Hopkins, and then stacking Hopkins with Murray makes sense. And then I think that the big decisions I had to make was going Galladay. He has huge touchdown upside every week, given how he's used in the end zone targets he'll likely see. And then with Stephon Diggs, I think the fear is obviously that Buffalo is not in much of a shootout, and he only sees like 6 targets in that game. But his target share has been really strong all season long. There's no John Brown. I think that he should have at least a high floor in this contest, similar to your logic, Jim, that you used with Terry.
Correct. Yeah, and with Stephon Diggs, the other thing too is if he gets 6 targets, that's 120 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So who cares? I think that, like I was talking about with McLaurin, the concern about the other team keeping pace is more evident when we need that top end score versus when we're trying to beat 2 people. Like trying to beat 1,500 or 15,000 lineups is a lot tougher than beating 2. So I'm more willing to consider the opposing team when it comes to that than I am when it comes to a snake draft here with just 2 other people. So I think that the Diggs pick was a good one, especially with John Brown being out. The giveaway has ended for the FanDuel Sunday Million contest. So the winner will be picked, I believe, here pretty soon. And if we're allowed to, we might announce it on the air. I don't know. We'll see. Regardless, the contest has ended, so no worries anymore about trying to figure out who was, or are you trying to get your name in there for the Week 7 contest. The winner of the Week 7 FanDuel Sunday Million giveaway, G-Man. Okay, so G-Man, you are the winner. You should be getting an email with a ticket to the FanDuel Sunday Million for week number 7. Congratulations, G-Man. Good luck to you. We hope you take down a milli and then put it towards the FanDuel Podcast Network Listener League for week number 8. Let's dive into some questions here. We're going to take some questions from the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Periscope pages. We got a whole lot on YouTube, so we got a lot to mow through here. We'll start off with JJ, Traquan Smith, or Gabriel Davis. Welcome to Week 7, 2020, everybody. Who you got there between Traquan and Gabriel Davis?
That's a fun one because both of them are kind of low-key sleepers-ish in this week, just given the fact that John Brown's out. You have Emmanuel Sanders and likely Michael Thomas out. The way that Schefter tweeted it earlier, it was like Michael Thomas didn't practice, which is usually a bad sign for the weekend, obviously. But it was like Michael Thomas didn't practice, and then like 5 minutes later, he quote tweets himself and he says, "With Michael Thomas not playing," essentially, and that was just okay. I guess he's not playing. Yeah. I probably like the game environment a little bit more for New Orleans, so I would probably lean Traquan. He's seen a nice target share. At times without Michael Thomas in the lineup than without Emmanuel Sanders. He's the one. Carolina has been surprisingly good defensively against the pass so far this year. It's sort of like a run funnel. So we should expect a heavy dosage of Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, but I just trust Traquan Smith's target share a little bit more in this game.
I think that it depends on what you need, partly too. Like if you need someone to get you 50 yards, Gabriel Davis is probably the better bet for that. I think his floor is pretty good. If you need someone to get you $150, Traquan's odds of doing that are a lot higher, I would say. Darnell is also asking about that same situation. I'm going to send this to you, Brandon. Is because it sounds kind of DFS-ish. From Darnell, are Traquan and Jared Cook must-starts now? We were talking about how the Saints, even without Michael Thomas, they don't really have a concentrated target tree. It's kind of spread out outside of Manny, but now Manny is out too. With both those pieces likely being off the table, does that open up enough volume for you to go at guys like Traquan Smith and Jared Cook, or is it just Alvin Kamara for you?
To go at, yes. I mean, if it's must start as in season long, it obviously depends. I don't know if Traquan's really there in a season long where you must start him. And like you said, the thing I was going to bring up is whenever they don't have Michael Thomas, the Saints just don't really feature anyone other than Alvin Kamara as much as we might want them to. That will definitely change a little bit without Manny Sanders, but to think that they're going to get guaranteed volume and feel great about it, I usually don't view the Saints that way. So I like the salaries just fine for DFS, but I would not consider them must starts.
Brandon, over under 1.5 touchdowns for Taysom Hill.
Under, but he's going to have like 4 or 5 goal line looks where he should score but won't.
And just when you use Alvin Kamara, just know Taysom Hill is guaranteed to take at least one touchdown because we can't have good things in 2020. Question from Darnell for JJ. Mike Evans or David Johnson? Mike Evans is facing Las Vegas, and we know things have not been great for him this year. However, he's not facing Jair Alexander this week at least. That's a good thing. It's a decent game if it plays. And David Johnson has his concerns. So between Mike Evans and David Johnson, where are you leaning?
I mean, there's kind of a lot to not like as much about Evans, given the fact that with Godwin active and healthy, Evans has seen like an 11-12% target share per game, essentially. Godwin has the better matchup, I would say, in that game from a cornerback and what the Raiders have given up this year. I think David Johnson at least gives you a better floor, which is surprising because I'm not a David Johnson guy. I think since week one, he's looked like he's still kind of running in mud. But I'd probably lean that way for the safety and the floor because I just don't think that Evans is nearly as safe as he might appear to be.
That feels like the perfect example when you throw out floor versus ceiling, like those two guys.
Yeah.
David Johnson only has a floor, and Mike Evans has none.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's
Mike Evans can score 2 touchdowns and barely get double-digit half PPR points.
Yeah,
I think that literally did happen this year.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
All right, this is for you, Brandon, from Hollisey Robert over on Periscope. AJ Dillon or Josh Adams if Jones is out. I'm assuming that's Josh Adams. So I'm just going to spin this to you, Brandon. Would you consider AJ Dillon if Aaron Jones were to sit? Would you go with Jamal Williams? How would you view that Green Bay backfield if Aaron Jones can't go?
I mean, obviously Williams to me is the priority. I like AJ Dillon a lot. I liked him coming out. I'm assuming this is a deep league. If that's the case, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
But for DFS, I'm not. AJ Dillon's not in the consideration set.
Would you consider Jamal if Jones were to sit?
Yeah, I don't know his salary. I never looked into him. 5,000. I don't know. It sounds like Aaron Jones is going to play, but we don't know how much he'll play. But yeah, that's a tough one because we're not going to know. But he would be an amazing pivot from Gio if it shakes out that way by Sunday.
Speaking of Gio, what are your DFS thoughts on Gio, Brandon? Your full thoughts. Like, we know Joe Mixon won't play. What are your overall thoughts? Like, is he a cash game lock, and how do you handle in tournaments?
I think he is a cash game lock. Usually, I mean, we talk all the time on the Heat Check about not really playing running backs who don't have a ceiling. I don't think that applies to Gio. I think that he does enough. He's not going to get scripted out if they're, trailing or anything like that. So he's very different from your traditional value play. So I think he's a cash game play. For tournaments, I do think I'll probably try to be underweight. And what I mean by that is you anticipate what his popularity is going to be in the tournament you're in, and probably just be a little bit lower than that because I don't think he's going to put up 25 FanDuel points. And I know he doesn't have to do that at the salary, but if he hits quote unquote value by getting 12, 15 points at 4,800, you still have to hit everywhere else on all the guys you spent up for. So I think he's a much better cash game play than a tournament play.
I would love to be underweight on Gio, but I know that I can't help myself when it comes to trying to get guys like Calvin Ridley, DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams. So I know I'm going to be overweight. I'm not going to pretend. I know I'm going to get too tempted by them and wind up going overweight. JJ Francis is asking, would you trade Chase Claypool for Myles Gaskin? They could also potentially trade Chase Claypool for Justin Jackson, but I think personally Myles Gaskin's pretty well ahead of Justin Jackson. So would you move Claypool for Myles Gaskin? I think we'll just keep it at that.
Feels pretty lateral to me. If you need, the main reason being, I would say that Claypool as a wide receiver is more valuable and better than Gaskin as a running back, but running back just matters more in fantasy football in terms of scarcity. So I think that's an even enough trade. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you need a receiver, or if you need a running back, I should say, makes total sense. This one's also for you, JJ, because they literally mentioned living the stream. Ben Roethlisberger or Teddy Bridgewater. Ben is facing the Titans in a potential shootout. Teddy, revenge game against New Orleans. Can the revenge game narrative push you to go Teddy over Big Ben?
I would probably lean Ben even though I'm a little bit afraid of Ben being on the road. I think that there's a lot of volatility to that Steelers Titans game. You mentioned it could shoot out. I agree, but I also think that there's that chance that it's kind of ugly. The Steelers obviously play good defense. No Taylor Lewan. They should be able to stop Derrick Henry. So all of that, like what happens if it's one-sided, or what happens if the Steelers just can't get anything going offensively either? I just have a little bit of hesitation there. But I will say, I mean, the pros for Teddy that I talked about on Living the Stream and other shows this week, the pros for Teddy is that New Orleans is sort of a pass funnel defense where they can stop the run very well. They haven't been as good at stopping the pass. There should be a negative game script also for Carolina, which you don't always want to look for negative game scripts, but it means that Carolina can't be very conservative in that game. But then on top of that, Teddy has a lot of positive regression coming. His touchdowns or his yards to touchdown ratio. So touchdowns correlate strongly to yards. You can kind of spot regression by looking at how many passing yards a quarterback has versus how many touchdowns he has. Teddy's one of the biggest candidates to have more. And you can look at his touchdown rate, which is also very, very low. I don't think that regression just hits in one game and everything's great. I just mean that the baseline that we've seen from Teddy so far this year should be higher. So the way that we've been viewing Teddy should be better than what we've seen. So I do like Teddy, but I would lean Ben between the two.
Plus, you expect better touchdown rates out of good quarterbacks, and Teddy being the best quarterback of all time, you'd expect at least a 17% touchdown rate. Yeah. So massive regression coming for Teddy Bridgewater. I'm going to skip around here to get some DFS questions that are hyper relevant here for week number 7. Brandon, this one's for you. DK Metcalf or Terry McLaurin? Personally, I have to say both because they're both in my snake draft roster. But Brandon, you can pick one. Who you got this week?
If I was faced with that, I would go with DK like 8 out of 10 times, or 5 if you want to, simplify that. But I think I think DK Metcalf's in a great spot. He's the wide receiver 1 for both me and Jim for the Seahawks. He surpassed Tyler Lockett, so I was obviously preferring DK Metcalf in the snake draft, but I settled with Tyler Lockett. He just gets so much downfield work, and honestly, I don't really know what to expect from that Dallas Washington game. It could be ugly.
I expect a lot of grossness, a lot of treachery.
And I expect the opposite for DK Metcalf's game. So, again, I don't think it's, you can't play Terry McLaurin because DK Metcalf's there, but I'm definitely siding with Metcalf about, 4 out of 5 times.
I'm going to ask you this one as well, Brandon. It's from Bill. Jarvis Landry or Randall Cobb in place of Christian Kirk for a value wide receiver. So all these guys are in the mid 5,000 range. I know you love Christian Kirk. So I'm going to assume you're taking him over Jarv and Cobb.
Oh, I thought it was if you can't play Christian Kirk. But yeah, Christian Kirk's number 1 out of those guys for me. I mean, can you please try to get up to T. Higgins if you can? But
yeah, T. Higgins is great. Brandon Cooks is great too. But
so yeah, Kirk. I don't actually know. I haven't looked into Jarv too much. What do you think, Jim?
I'm not really into Jarv because I feel like this could be film bias. I hate when my players get up and are constantly they look like they're 70 and they look like they're in agonizing pain. And that's kind of the vibe I've been getting from Jarvis Landry the entire year. So it's kind of like you with Rory McIlroy, where you're kind of watching it makes me feel uncomfortable. So I kind of just don't want to use him.
Just on the greens, I want to clarify that.
Oh, no. Bill, okay. So the reason that Bill was asking is because he thought that Christian Kirk was off the main slate. Bill, he's actually staying in the main slate. FanDuel decided to keep the Seattle-Arizona game on the main slate. So you can still use Seahawks and Cardinals players on the main slate, unless something has happened while we've been talking to change that. No. They did announce that game will stay on the main slate. So, Bill, you're good to go. Arrows up on Christian Kirk, and we can party when Christian Kirk scores his 3rd touchdown on Sunday. JJ, this one for you. Final question we will do. Giovanni Bernard or DeAndre Swift this week? This is from Muhammad.
I would go with Gio. DeAndre Swift last week, obviously the production was there. He looked good, but the snap share wasn't there. The backfield share really wasn't as strong as it might have appeared. He did have 3 goal line rushes, but they all came on the same drive. So, we don't know exactly how they're going to utilize. I would still assume that Adrian Peterson's their goal line back for the most part. I don't mind Swift because I do think that this Atlanta team is more conducive to be beat by a DeAndre Swift type running back than an Adrian Peterson type running back. But Gio, like we said earlier, I mean, he was a borderline guy that we would draft in the snake draft. Someone who should be a 3-down back in that game, should see a lot of snaps. I'd go Gio over Swift.
I think the difference is with DeAndre Swift, you have to make some assumptions, and you have to assume that the Lions increase his role from where it was last week. Whereas with Gio, we kind of know what he's going to do, and I think that that's a better role. I'd rather have the more certain thing, and that's what we get with Gio. So I think that I would agree. Go with Gio there for the certainty. That is all the time that we have for today for our Week 7 NFL Snake Draft. We'll be back again next week. We have our waiver wire Q&A on Tuesday, the Snake Draft on Friday, but also every Sunday at noon Eastern, JJ is answering your start-sit questions to get you set for that week's slate of games. That there will be one this Sunday at noon Eastern on the FanDuel Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch pages. So make sure you're subscribed to each of those so you get notifications as JJ goes live on Sunday and as we go live every Tuesday and Friday. JJ, good luck to you this week. Hopefully not as much good luck as last week. We need to get back in the win column, but I appreciate you stopping by for today.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I'm excited for the Sunday Night Hammer.
Absolutely. It's nice to have it back in our lives, even if it is partially due to COVID. We'll take it for sure. For this 1 week, Brandon, your streak of 2 in a row has been snapped, but good luck to you this week as well.
Thank you, Jim. Good luck to you.
Appreciate that. You can find them on Twitter at LateRoundQB, at Gadula13. I am at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck with your lineups in week number 7, no matter whether they are best ball, DFS, or season long. Good luck to you. We'll talk to you again next week. This has been the Snake Draft live on the FanDuel Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope pages.